Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for season 5 of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krentzman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks, from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. This is the Mind Your Puckin' Business podcast, brought to you, of course, by our good friends at the Bamboozle Project and DraftKings. We thank them for their sponsorship. As always, go check out thebamboozleproject.com. And while you're there, and there is some new gear you are going to want to see that we haven't even spoken about yet, you can use promo code MYPB and save yourself 20% off your entire order while you are on the site. So we strongly encourage you to check them out. We thank them for their sponsorship as always, and we thank DraftKings as usual. This is episode 164, Ciento Sesenta y Cuatro on the Spanish dial.
Starting off strong.
Yeah, we're starting off season 5 with a little fluency in Spanish. I took some Spanish over the summer.
Ooh, buddy.
So we thank you if you're joining using the SAP features that are available to you with today's episode. And today's episode is being taped on Wednesday, September 4th. You can send us your questions at any time to mypbshow@gmail.com, or you can DM us on the Instagram platform. You can send it to us there. And you can listen to the show on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube, or you can watch it live on Instagram as well. So you have plenty of different options on the on our little programming note here in the studio. If we could put the comments, there we go. We got that up and rolling. We are off and rolling into season 5, and we thank you for what has been a crazy first 4 seasons. I'm surprised we're still, if you told me at the beginning of season 1, 4 years later, we would be sitting here in 2024 in September doing a preview, our premiere episode, rather, for season 5. I would have told you you're crazy. But yet, here we are. We're a little bit older, not wiser by any means. We're just older. So, So, and I could see the comments already about, was things going to start on time today? And we were right on the dot at 10 o'clock. We are kicking off.
Absolutely.
We're going to kick it off and be on time. So, special guest coming up in a matter of moments to kick off our season 5. But I want to start here, and it's obviously, we can be in a great mood about season 5 and hockey coming back and the NFL coming back, whatever, makes you happy. But we have to start with what happened last week, and just with Johnny Gaudreau. Now, we can come on here, like the Rangers can be eliminated, and we don't want to talk about stuff like that, but there's things to talk about when the Rangers get eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
This Johnny Gaudreau thing is completely different. You don't want to talk about it because it's awful, and I don't even know what to even say. Like, I don't know. I want to mention it. I'm not going to get into some speech or something. I don't even know what to say. The whole situation is as awful of a situation as you can have. Here's a guy nicknamed Johnny Hockey, and he got that name actually in the early 2000s. He was a hockey player up at BC, and he dominated Hockey East, which is the conference that Boston College plays on. Went into the NHL, played in Calgary for many years, was successful out there, had a really famous goal about just 2 years ago. I believe it was the 2022 playoffs. I believe it was game 7-2 in overtime versus Dallas at home that he scored the winner on. And he was a free agent. Calgary tried to re-sign him and couldn't. And he left town and surprisingly shocked a lot of people when he picked Columbus as his destination. But he spent the last 2 years in Columbus and was in town. He's actually a Jersey kid from South Jersey, grew up a Flyer fan, and was in town over the weekend for his sister's wedding. And the night before, him and his brother, Matt, who was a career minor league player, were out riding bikes. I guess it was after the rehearsal dinner, and got hit by a drunk driver. Just like, there's nothing to say. They're like, I don't even know what to say. Just that it's awful. And just terrible in every way, shape, or form. The story just gets worse and worse the more things come out. So we send our condolences, obviously, to his family in Columbus and all that stuff. Johnny Gaudreau, I don't know if people remember this, and I know we're obviously biased towards the Rangers here, but 2 years ago in his free agent era, there was definitely some talk of him coming to the Devils. And the Rangers were never really mentioned in the conversation, but there was some talk about him coming to the Devils. And of course, he surprised a lot of people and ended up going to Columbus. So just a terrible situation all around. All right, the NFL comes back this weekend. We're going to get to some NFL stuff. We've run some polls in the offseason. One of the things that we wanted to do, and we did this last week, was we wanted to give you guys, the listeners, the opportunity to give us feedback on what you want from us. If you've put up with us for 4 seasons, and man, do I give you all the credit in the world. I don't know how some of you are even still here, but we wanted to give you some power and control to decide on some of the things we do here. For example, we asked you, do you want live food reviews? Or not live food reviews. That would not be good on the fly. Do you still want food collabs that we do? The answer to that was yes. Do you still want weekly power rankings, which is an exclusive thing we do on Instagram every week with NYR discussion? That was an overwhelming yes. Do you still want game recaps? Yes. Do you want everything? Yes. Everything was a decided yes, like majority, except one thing. And it was the one question that I wanted to be like definitively yes or no, and and it ended up being 53% to 47. And that was, do you want us to still do the NFL? And I'm going to tell you what my vote would be like if you said to me, what would you want, Jeff? Like, would you want to do NFL? The answer is yes, I would. But I decided I was going to take the power to the people, or give the power to the people. And if the votes were, hey, no, cool, man, we'll just do straight up hockey. I'm fine with that too. We can be versatile. We can make you guys happy. And 53% of you said you wanted the NFL. So we're going to make 53% happy still on this show, especially in the fall and the back ends of the show.
Yeah, the good part is it's at the end of the show.
So if you are like Chris, who watches the show, or Nikolai and all these people that tell me, hey, we like the show, but the second you put on the NFL, the show goes off. We're going to keep NFL in the back of the show so that you will have the opportunity to leave.
There you go.
We'll miss you.
We'll miss you very much.
But we'll leave. And what we have also found, and I thought about this after the poll results, because I was trying to justify it both ways because the voting was so close, was that a lot of you guys do send us football questions. I mean, there are some of you that like the football content.
Yeah. I mean, and if you follow along with us, we make you money.
We do make you money. And the weekly picks are back later in the show today. Although I will tell you, full disclosure, I usually do them like the night before and I'm prepped and all that stuff. We went on at 10 o'clock at 9:58. I was like, oh my God, we didn't do week 1 picks. Like we're getting back into our regular groove here as we move into the season. So the NFL comes back this weekend. Ranger training camp will open. Antoinette, thank you for watching. Glad to see you back too for season 5. The NFL will be this weekend. The Rangers training camp will open probably at the end of next week. The first preseason game, believe it or not, is just 18 days away, as the Rangers will be up in Boston on Sunday the 22nd. That'll be the second straight year, believe it or not, that they start in Boston, and I'm not sure why. That seems to be the case, but we'll have some preseason hockey leading into the home opener not the home opener. The first game is on the road this year, October 9th in Pittsburgh, followed by the home opener 3 nights later on Saturday the 12th of Columbus Day weekend, when they host the Utah Hockey Club. We still need a name. Hey, B-Rock, are they still they're still called the Utah Hockey Club, right? I didn't miss anything. Yeah, wow. All right, so we do have a lot of football questions already. You guys are hilarious. On the Instagram chat, Giants over under 6.5 wins. We'll take stuff on the fly real quick. We'll take some of your questions before our guest comes on in a minute. And our guest is going to be a hockey guest, so stay with us if you're a hockey guy. Giants over under 6.5. I am going to take the under. I went
ready for the football stuff already.
Well, we'll do it later, but I'll just say this. I went last week, so before we were on, I went Nikolai, football's at the end. You can wait a second, Nikolai. We'll have a guest coming here in a matter of moments that you will like. And you know who it is because I talked to you off the air. I went to last week, the Jets gave me tickets. They gave me tickets, but they gave me tickets trying to sell me season tickets. It wasn't like, hey, here's tickets. Congratulations. It was, hey.
Came with a tour.
Yeah, and come to the game. We'll come and meet you, and we'll talk to you. They sent a ticket rep who was really nice. But I have no interest. Like, I don't, with NFL, I'll go to as many hockey games as I can. NFL is not my thing. It's cold. There's a million other things going on Sundays. My kids do 700 activities on Sundays. I don't even have the time, right? Yeah. So we went to the Jets-Giants game last Saturday. Yeah. You'll be proud of me because I know the MetLife is your second home this time of year. And I get it that both teams, well, especially the Jets, were not playing their starters, and the Giants kind of were. The Giants just looked awful to me. Yeah. So I'm going to take the under on that. We'll take the other football question. How about Brian Dable taking over the Giants play calling? I don't know that it's going to matter much because if if the team is bad and your offensive line is not good and you have a quarterback in Daniel Jones that I have said forever is not good, what does it really matter, right?
I don't know.
It could be a very, very long season there.
I'll wait to the end.
So a lot going on sports wise. College football is back as well. It's a very good time of year because you really go from the summer. Like August is, it's hard to get into preseason football, but August you're in the dog days of summer, right? And all you have is baseball. And look, we do not cover baseball here. I say this every time this comes up. I have to say we do not cover baseball here. Although I did last night. Jenny from the block and I stayed up and watched the end of the Yankee game in a walk-off grand slam against the Yankees, which was terrible. But you go from the dog days of summer where you don't have anything really other than baseball to coming into football, hockey starting. I mean, it's college football. I mean, if you're into baseball, you have the postseason of that. The NBA, the Knicks are going to be a big story around here this year. So you come back to some really, really cool things. Can we cover baseball? The answer is no, Antoinette. But that is the one sport here we do not touch.
We'll get yelled at.
I don't even remember the story now, but there was a story where we literally got blasted by people.
Yeah, we got blasted because, like we mentioned, the Yankee game. It wasn't even like we dove into baseball at all. I don't know anything about. I don't follow baseball really at all. And like we were like, oh yeah, the Yankees won. You got some email like, don't you ever mention baseball?
Yeah, it was something.
Someone did not like it out there.
Someone did not like that we were covering baseball. Now, there was a time where I would go to 15, 20 Yankee games a year, and I was really into it. I was at the Aaron Boone Game 7 back in the day, and I was also out there when they won the World Series versus the Phillies, but we just do not in any way, shape, or form thing. And I am not a big cricket guy. Thank you for the comment. So we are going to dive in. We're going to go back to where we make our bread and butter, and that is hockey. And we're going to bring in our guest who is here, and that is David Pagnotta from, you know him from many different things. He's the NHL insider for NHL Network, Sirius XM NHL Radio, and the Fourth Period. How are you, Dave?
I'm good, boys. How we doing?
I am good. How was your summer?
Decent. More eventful and busy than I anticipated this year, but whatever. Comes with the territory. It's all good. The weather's right now in Toronto, it's kind of up and down, so I'm hoping that it goes back up.
Okay. Well, we'll go back down at some point, I'm sure, as we get into hockey season, but we'll keep it up as long here as we can.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
all
right, let me ask, please.
Yeah, please. I'll see our connections with Mother Nature. Let me ask you a couple Ranger questions, because obviously that's where our show is geared around. I want to get your opinion on some off-season stuff, although for the Rangers, it wasn't the most typical New York Ranger offseason with big splashes and all that stuff. And I think a lot of that was due to cap issues. But one of the things they did was they traded for Riley Smith from Pittsburgh. And Riley Smith is now slotted to be the maybe 34th player to play alongside Zibanejad and Cryer, hoping that he is the one that actually is going to work in that role. Do you think there is a chance that Riley Smith is the lightning in a bottle for that role?
Maybe. They really hope so. I mean, look, if anything, he's going to be able to provide secondary scoring. He's in an environment that he wants to be in. Does he regain some of the flair he had with Vegas? And if that's the case, then that would be a solid compliment for the line. But again, from a worst case scenario, he's going to provide some secondary scoring and bolster the offense overall. He didn't gel in Pittsburgh. It didn't work for him, and I think it seemed like he started to get a little checked out, which is normal. He didn't give up on the team or anything like that, but just, mentally you get a little bit strained and drained and whatnot. And then with the unofficial, I guess, trade request and all the speculation tied to it and this, that, and the other, it takes a bit of a toll on a guy. So I think getting a fresh start now, joining the Rangers, having an opportunity to play, top tier minutes with a new group, it adds some excitement. It's probably a boost of confidence, and they're going to see what he can do. I don't think there's a negative in terms of giving him an opportunity, but again, worst case, you're probably going to have some secondary scoring in your lineup if things don't work out on the top unit.
Okay. One of the things that seems to not be getting a lot of coverage as much as I would think, but then again, Chris Drury holds everything to his vest and is very quiet, is the fact that Igor Shesterkin is about to enter the year unsigned beyond this year. And it's a little bit concerning. Not that I think Igor will walk out the door, but because the Rangers do everything kind of close to the vest, is there a chance? Do you know at all? Are there any negotiations going on? Like one day, it wouldn't be a surprise to all of a sudden have the Rangers put out a PR release at some point next Tuesday and say he's been signed for 8 years. Do you think there's a chance he's going to be signed between now and opening night?
I certainly. I was going to cut you off when you said he wasn't signed. I was going to say for now. I know there have been, some very loose discussions. Have they intensified? Nobody's really talking, which is standard practice. So again, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think they want to be in a scenario where this is going to linger from a topic perspective during the season. But at the same time, I don't really get the sense, or haven't gotten the sense, that this was going to be a concern if it didn't happen this summer. So there's still time, if anything. But and I'll also, I don't have any evidence that would suggest one way or another if anything is close. Outside of around draft and the start of free agency, I knew there were discussions, obviously, that you need to have those to at least get a sense of where things are going to eventually get to. But there's a guy in Boston that needs to sign, and I'm sure that's going to affect in some fashion, even though Shesterkin's a better goalie in my opinion. But that will, in some fashion, affect what he may get. So, I don't get a sense there's a rush. I don't get a sense there's concern. But again, based on how these guys do things, I wouldn't be shocked if, in a couple of weeks or in a month before the start of the regular season, that they figure something out.
Okay, so we'll take a viewer question right on this topic, and that's from Chris down at the bottom, if you can pull it up. And that is, Dave, how does deferred salary work, and is that something we will see Igor take?
Well, okay, so first of all, this has been allowed in the CBA since they implemented it into the CBA. Like, this is doable. It just doesn't happen. So Jarvis's deal gives a little bit of cap flexibility now, and then that money then gets added on after the fact. So whatever is deferred gets put on to their cap afterwards and spread out however it's structured. Everybody can do this. It's just not common. Now, I think one of the reasons Carolina did this was, excuse me, Tom Dundon, the owner, likes to do things a little bit differently and does do a lot of things differently. And this is a bit of a competitive advantage in a sense of just not having a higher cap hit now. So between his decision and, Eric Tulsky, the GM, and their staff there that work a lot on numbers, I think they felt comfortable doing this because of the trajectory of the league. It's going to continue to increase revenue-wise, which means it's going to increase the salary cap is going to continue to increase. You can account for those types of additional dollars in future years while still being able to manipulate your roster in such a fashion where it's not going to affect you or have a negative impact. Could they do this with Igor? Could they do this with anybody? The Rangers? Yes. I don't know. First of all, the player also has to be comfortable with that. You want to take all your bread now, or do you want to spread it out? Which some guys are totally cool with. But bottom line, this is really a long ass answer. I apologize. Okay. They could do it. I just don't see it being continued common practice. Okay, it's certainly an option, and it does have its benefits, and it's totally allowable. It just, I don't know. We may see a few more of these here and there, but I don't think this is going to be common practice across the board. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I would like to think, and again, typical Ranger fashion would not be a surprise to all of a sudden hear on a random afternoon that he's signed. Yeah.
It could be like 10 minutes after I come off, and then everyone's going to be like, see, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But
there you go. Well, hopefully they'll wait for the sake of that.
yeah.
Another issue in the offseason, not a player addition or a player leaving, although it was looking like it was Jacob Trouba. And what a mess that this whole thing was. You know, it came out the 4th of July week, or the week before 4th of July weekend. You know, he was going to be traded. Larry Brooks had that article. The team has come to the consensus. He's definitely not coming back. You know, he's going to go to Detroit, his hometown, and they're just stuck with him. So he's going to be here. And then you have some fans that I certainly don't agree with saying we're going to boo him opening night. You know, the Trues are actually going to be boos and all that. What do you think of the whole situation as it happened? And is there a way for him to come back and have a bounce back year?
I don't understand. So let me ask you something, because I don't understand that narrative of booing him. And why are Ranger fans pissed off at Trouba?
So I am not on the booing train at all, the Trouba train. Okay. I am not on the booing factor. I think they're annoyed because he had a very, very bad postseason. Now, he was hurt. It came out. I think he had a broken ankle or something.
Right.
But I think they're not happy with the play. Like, he got burnt a lot. I think he led the NHL in penalties, if I'm not mistaken, in the postseason. Like, it was not a good showing. Now, does that equate to let's go out and boo our captain? Absolutely not. And I think the other thing that they're mad at is the whole thing that happened with his wife, where it came out that he didn't want to be traded because his wife was starting a residency program in New York City, and he doesn't want to be away from his kid, which as a parent, I completely understand who wants to be away. But I think that angered a lot of people. Like, it just festered with a very bad postseason. And then you sat here and said, no, I'm not going to let you trade me. My wife is starting a residency in a hospital. So I think that's where it happened.
All right, couple of responses to that.
Okay.
He's got a no trade, no move, so he can do whatever he wants in that respect. And a lot of guys that implement that are it's family related. Like, they don't want to just up and move their family at any point. Torrey Krug, last summer, as we all know, he was almost traded to Philadelphia. He exercised his no trade primarily because his wife didn't want to leave St. Louis and she didn't want to go to Philly. So, I mean, this isn't a rare case that kind of stuff happens. And by the way, Trouba's, I mean, I get the poor playoff performance. I was at a few of the games over the course of the playoffs and in the Eastern Final. You know, there are probably a few other guys everyone should be pissed off at too, based on the playoff performance. So I get there's always the whipping. Look, I'm in Toronto. There's a whipping boy every week. The fans here are nuts. They'll just zero in on someone and then shift their focus to someone else once the guy actually scores. You know, it's hilarious. But it wasn't solely his fault that they didn't, you know, move on to the final and things like that. And I get it. I'm sure it's because also, well, he's got a big cap hit and this and that, and it was a poor playoff and all that stuff. Look, bottom line is the Rangers explored their options and were exploring their options, and they were probably pretty pissed off that it did leak, that it, you know, got out there. But you know, it wasn't just Detroit. There were other options, and they've been exploring other options. Look, it's still possible that they work something out here before. Again, we're a month before the season, I believe, technically, because the Devils and Sabres will start in Europe. But you don't think he's now, like, he also has a chip on his shoulder? You don't think he wants to have a better season? I know he was, you know, back in New York for a good chunk of the summer. You know, he's focused on having a better season. And whether it's with the Rangers or somewhere else, he's definitely going to be focused on, well, making sure those boos don't happen, or at least shutting them up if they do. So I anticipate him having a better season, certainly. Now, whether it's with the Rangers or with another team, we're going to have to wait and see. I mean, trying to figure out the Shesterkin situation is just as difficult as trying to figure out if they're actually going to trade Trouba and where that's going to go. I know there was a ton of speculation over the summer. Well, it's going to be Anaheim, it's going to be Calgary, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. I mean, he has a say in where he ends up. I don't think, first of all, those two options are going to be on the table. And he's going to want to compete because that's the type of guy that he is. And again, having that chip on his shoulder he's going to want to compete even further and harder. So a tough spot, certainly. But can they figure something out over the next 4 weeks? Possibly. It seems less likely now because everybody's kind of situated from a cap perspective for the most part. It's going to have to take a little bit of creativity if, Chris Drury and the staff want to figure this out. But I wouldn't be shocked if he starts the season at MSG now.
Okay. A player that I will be shocked if he starts the season at MSG, and a lot of us would, but it's still looking like he might be, is Capo Caco. Just has not really worked out here every year. It just seems more and more likely that they're going to cut bait while there is some value. But here we are again, a month before the season, and number 24, it's still slated to be a blue shirt. Do you think Caco has the do you think there's potential there for Caco to actually be a productive player more than what he is, where he's obviously never lived up to the number 2 overall pick right behind Jack Hughes? Can right. Caco have a bounce back year?
I think he can have a better year. You better hope he has a better year. But I think he also understands. He's the readily available asset that they have to put into a deal if they want to make another move. I think he knows that. He's not dumb. Him and his agent have an understanding, or have the understanding, that he's trade bait. And for a variety of reasons, not just because of his performance, because the dollars and the potential asset value that's there tied in with other assets. Does that, bring in another piece that can help this club? I still believe there's some value there, but he's not viewed as the top guy anymore in terms of prospect potential. Can he have a bounce back and get into, just playing at a better pace? Whether the numbers are 40 points, 50 points, 55, his role is going to be relegated now to a mid-6 position, depending on how he's performing. So whether that's he's performing better, maybe he's bumped up to the second line. If not, it's a third line duty. Depending how it's being interchanged and how the coaching staff use it, that just maybe just from an option perspective, he might be better suited on a lower line, because it's viewed differently now. But I think he needs to. Certainly, I think he knows that. The team would certainly love that to happen. Are we looking at a 40 to 50 point potential type season for him? That might be the ceiling, but if he puts up better numbers, that would make things a little bit easier in trying to package him up in a trade to get an upgrade elsewhere. So, again, not a definitive no. He's not going to be moved by the start of the season, but they still have that piece that they can dangle. And the better he plays, the easier it is to convince another team to say, yeah, he does have this potential. Look what he can do. We need, he's the right piece in this deal for player X.
Okay. So Caco has not lived up to the hype. We all know that. No. But a player last year, another high pick that's starting to live up to the hype, is Lafreniere. Yes. Do you think we're just going to continue to see this positive trajectory of him? Like he's going to improve even more this year, and we're just going to keep the slope going up?
I think so. I'm not comparing the two players, but in terms of talent and style, obviously is going to be different. But a number 1 pick back in, I think it was 97, Joe Thornton. It took him a few years to really blossom and to get acclimated and used to and adjust his style to that of the National Hockey League. Now, again, totally different type of game back then versus now, but just in terms of, first overall pick, big frame, lot of skill, not as physical as Jumbo was by any stretch. Again, I'm not comparing the two players stylistically, but just in terms of a first overall pick that can get to that point, but is going to take some time to get there. I think that we saw a lot of positives out of him last season, especially postseason as well. Like this is a guy that I think is going to continue to build off that momentum. I think he's going to have a really good season this year, quite frankly. And I think a lot of, and yes, there's Mika and there's Kreider and there's et cetera. But I think to have this caliber player include himself as one of the top tier offensive guys on this club this coming season, I think there's high potential for that. I'm expecting that, to be honest.
Okay, I'll take one last. Well, let me give you one last Ranger question before we do some around the league stuff. I'm going to take it someone who wrote in just now, and that is what percentage of, in quotes, open is the window of opportunity for the Rangers?
I will give you a better answer, and I'll come back on with that answer once Igor's situation is clear. Yeah, I think that'll define the longevity of that open window. Even with Lafreniere and with some of the other pieces that are there in terms of long term and younger, and obviously Artie's locked in and so on and so on. I think that window will depend on Shesterkin, and if there's another contract, I expect there to be, but we should probably wait until he's officially signed before we can say, okay, the window is going to be basically the length of his deal, because they're going to want to keep it that way. So let's just the pre-answer is based on him signing, and I think it's going to be that, like, at least the bulk of that contract extension. But definitively, I would rather wait until that's official.
That's smart. I like it. The Metro Conference. Am I wrong that this 2 years ago, this was the division of death? Now I look at this division and I do not think it's that good. You have the Devils who got better, clearly. They may even, you could even argue if you wanted. I don't know that I would agree with it, but you could even argue that they're up there at the Rangers echelon right now and can challenge them for the top. I could deal with that. But then I look across the division and you have Carolina, who's lost Gensel and Pesce, and it really hasn't added much. You have the Islanders, who need scoring, and they seem to think Anthony Duclair is that answer. You have Pittsburgh, who hasn't done much, just got rid of Riley Smith, didn't really add a lot. They're only older. Washington, some moves, but again, Ovechkin older as well. The Flyers, I just have a feeling that Torts' message is going to run out. I mean, at some point here, I feel like Torts got everything he could out of him last year. It's going to be hard to do that again. Columbus is Columbus. Is this division not that good?
It's not what it used to be, but by any stretch, I think it's going to be, probably Rangers, Devils 1-2, and then I don't know, take your pick on who could potentially be 3. It's really who's going to get hot. I agree with you on Carolina. I think I'm one of the few right now that have been pretty open about the fact that Carolina regressed. Now, does Marty Necas have a better season now that he's given a better opportunity? Probably. Is Svechnikov going to be healthy? And is that going to contribute more offensively? Probably. But, you mentioned you lose Pesce, you lose Shea. Pesce ends up in Jersey, improves their decor even further. They bring in Markstrom. Carolina hasn't really addressed. They addressed a little bit on D, bringing in Gostisbehere and Sean Walker. But those are, tiers below the other 2 guys that they ended up losing. They didn't really address the offense externally. And I'm not sold on their goaltending. So I expect them to be a wild card team. But again, with the rest of the division, things are going to have to go really well on the island offensively for them to take that push. Now, I do like the Duclair ad. From a secondary scoring perspective, I do think that's going to pay off dividends. Could they use another guy with a little bit more offensive flair? Probably. But again, a lot of can they get their offense going, and does Sorokin have a hell of a season again? So I think they'll compete for third. Washington, I like some of the moves that they made. I like the chance that they're taking on Dubois. I think they might have jumped the gun from a goaltending perspective in terms of moving Kemper out and not having a more proven guy in net. But whatever, take your chance. You shoot your shot, and let's see what they do. I think Pittsburgh's improved a little bit as well. But all of these teams, to me, wild card type teams at best. And one of them is going to get the third slot. So, I think the division is definitely not what it used to be. But at the same time, I think we'll see some competitive hockey for that third slot. But I think it's Rangers, Devils 1-2, and then I don't know. Depends how things go for some of these guys and who has a breakout type season or a bigger season, rejuvenated season on one of the other clubs to solidify that third slot.
Got it. I'm in complete agreement with you on that and the way you're looking at the landscape. All right, last question before we let you go. It's a Devils question. We have to cover the Devils a little bit here, and our executive producer in the corner is obsessed with the Devils. I don't want to ask you how they're going to do in the offseason or how they did in the offseason, although I think you answered it. But I know you're a Toronto guy, so if anyone's going to know Sheldon Keefe, it's you. Is Sheldon Keefe a good fit for the Devils?
He's a good coach. I just think the time ran out in Toronto. They needed a change. There's still some stuff that needs to happen in Toronto for this team to, I think, take those next steps. So I don't know. We'll see. It'll probably be entertaining for me. I get to see everyone cry again. But from a Jersey perspective, I think, look, Keefe's a good coach. He's a guy that connects well. He knows how to handle top tier talent, having to deal with, and I don't mean deal with in a negative sense. I just, how to conduct himself and coach top tier athletes like Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Riley and those Tavares, to an extent as well. So being able to go into an environment with the top tier guys that they have, especially with Jack Hughes, and how to connect with him and how to coach him and bring in a system that complements their key pieces, including Jack, I think will work out well. Again, I'm expecting a bounce back season from New Jersey across the board, assuming everybody's healthy, and Jack is, and I think his brother's going to have a good season in terms of.
We lost him.
Oh, we lost him somehow. All right. Well,
he's back.
Oh, he's back.
Oh,
here we go.
Sorry, boys.
We're good.
I don't know where I left off there, but
we were saying Jack and Luke Hughes
having
good years.
Yes, I mean, assuming they're healthy, I anticipate both guys having great seasons. I think Jack's going to push for the pace that he was at before, and then again, your decor got better. You have a goalie now in Markstrom who is motivated. Like he waved to go to Jersey in the middle of the season. He was pissed off it didn't happen, so he's excited to be there. I think, again, like I said, I think it's going to be 1-2 Rangers Devils, and if things go really well for Jersey and there's a couple stumbling blocks for the Rangers, can they jump up to the 1 slot? Maybe. I think it's going to be a 1-2 scenario, Rangers Devils, but I think it's going to be close, and I think New Jersey's going to have a hell of a bounce back year.
I would agree. Well, thank you for your time as always. I know your time's going to be a little bit harder to get, so we're happy to get you today. But during the season, if you want to come back and see us,
absolutely,
doors always open. So thank you very much, Dave.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
You got it. That's Dave Pagnotta, NHL insider for the NHL Network, Sirius XM NHL Network Radio, as well as the Fourth Period.
Very nice.
Yes, very, very insightful stuff there.
Yeah.
And I would agree with a lot of what he said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be, and I know I am an eternal pessimist with this stuff.
Yeah.
But if you told me that you put a gun to my head and said, is Riley Smith going to be that answer that they've been looking for? Probably not. Dave didn't sound overly confident. I'm not either. And I would agree that, with the Rangers, would you be surprised if you get a PR release or news release out of the blue one morning? Hey, Igor's been signed for 7 or 8 years? No, I wouldn't. So we're in agreement on a lot of stuff. So this weekend, before we get to more NHL stuff as we get closer to the start of the preseason in 2 weeks, is week 1 of the NFL season. Now, what is take me through your Sunday. Now, I won't see any of it.
So we're going into football.
We're going into football.
Transferring over?
Yes.
I don't know.
Are you going to the Giants game this weekend?
Because
they are the
currently at this very moment, this second, I do not possess any tickets, but that could change at a moment's notice.
Yes.
This is a weird season. The Giants are everyone's not excited about. The Jets have a lot of potential. So we haven't seen anything from the Jets because Aaron and company have not played a single snap in the preseason, I believe, in any preseason games. So we don't know what we're going to see. And then for the Giants, everyone played and it did not look good. So I don't know. I'm excited for football to be back.
Is this so with the Giants?
Yes.
Is this the type of thing? Someone said this last year to us, and I don't remember who it was.
Okay.
And if you're watching and it was you, you can take claim for it. in one of the chats right now. But do you look back as a Giant fan?
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe you're excited now and then 2 weeks from now you're just so fed up and you're done by week 3 or 4?
So, a lot of people are not excited about the Giants and the moves that they've made and letting go of Saquon and signing Daniel Jones and whatever. The only thing that we got going for us is that if you do look back at last season, I think it was last season, and making the playoffs and everything, like the last 3 games were like last second plays that we lost those games, and we like lost by like 3. And if we won those games, you're now making the playoffs. So like, you know, they didn't have a terrible season. If a couple plays at the end could have went our way, it's a totally different season, I guess. But people are really coming after Daniel Jones, so he has to show up or his career's over. Apparently the offensive line is better. We got Neighbors, who's supposed to be like, you know, game changer. So like, I don't know. As of right now, I'm not like, you know, I'm not like searching for tickets this weekend.
I wouldn't.
So like this weekend's my weekend to really see what we got going on.
Okay.
And then after this weekend, I'll be able to be like, all right, we're screwed. Or we have a chance.
So I would definitely agree with you in that sense that I wouldn't be excited and let them prove, like, especially with the Giants.
Yeah.
If you're going to get excited with them, they've got to prove you wrong, right?
Yeah.
So we shall see. All right, Super Bowl picks. We've had people, for whatever reason, we are a hockey show.
Yes.
We know this. We don't hide from this, but they want to know our Super Bowl pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you the MYPB Super Bowl pick. And I thought about this. But here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
If we make a pick on the Super Bowl and tell you who's going to win the Super Bowl and who's going to lose this in the Super Bowl, it's a total shot in the dark. And the odds are so high that we're wrong, right? Because I think we've done Super Bowl picks before before week 1. And we probably are not even close. Like, we could go back and roll the tape, but we're probably wrong. So if I'm going to go out and make a pick, and I'm going to be wrong, I'm going to have some fun with it, and let me for a moment believe.
Okay.
Right? If there's one team in the NFL, all right, that is overly due for a Super Bowl and is a legitimate contender this year if they stay healthy, who would that be?
San Francisco.
Nope. That was the way I phrased it to you wasn't fair. I didn't give you enough hints. A legitimate B-Rock thinks he knows. Do you want to take a guess? Go ahead, B-Rock.
I'm gonna go with the Baltimore Ravens.
No. I'm gonna give you guys. I'm gonna give you more insight.
Ask the question again.
They have not won a Super Bowl in forever. Literally.
Oh, Detroit Lions.
Nope. I'm not gonna say it.
What do you mean? You're asking a metaphorical question. You're not going to let me know if I'm right.
They have not won let me finish. They have not won a Super Bowl in a long time.
Okay.
They play in a division that is very good. Right now, it is not that good. Similar to the Metro with the Rangers. The division is not as good that they play in. Okay. They signed a major piece last year.
Chicago Bears.
They signed a major piece last year that didn't last very long into the season.
A major piece
and Greg Pleater has the correct answer on Instagram. If you go on the Instagram chat, and I see there are some other people on YouTube that figured it out, but don't cheat. I want
they signed a major piece last year that left.
That got hurt early.
They signed as a rookie sign?
No.
Signed a major. Oh, Aaron Rodgers.
Thank you. Yeah, what team is that?
Jets.
There you go. Yeah. I'm taking the Jets because if it's ever going to happen, my thought is this. The Buffalo Bills lost Stephon Diggs. They're still good, right?
Yeah.
But they're not as good.
Okay.
The Patriots, and B-Rock's going to hate me for this, might be horrendous this year, and we will all love every single minute of it.
Yeah.
I'm not believing in the Dolphins. I understand they have Tyreek, but I wouldn't trust Tua, and I don't really love that defense. Yeah, I'm not huge. So the division is not good. The division is so not good enough that the Jets right now are favored to win the AFC East. Then I go around the league. Now, obviously, the Chiefs are the team. But to two-peat is hard. To three-peat is even harder. And at some point, just some point, whether it's luck, I don't want to say puck luck because it's the wrong sport, but some sort of luck. They've got to, they've come, it's got to turn around.
Yeah.
So they got to progress.
Many games in the playoffs where they just squeak by, or they've been down by 30 and then they somehow miraculously come back.
And speaking of the playoffs, am I going to trust the Baltimore Ravens, who seem to blow it every year in the playoffs? No, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination. Going to buy the Houston Texans, and I like the YouTube comment there, Nikolai Houston Oilers, back in the '90s. So I'm not by the AFC. If they can stay healthy, they have Garrett Wilson, they have Breece Hall, and I did 2 fantasy drafts this weekend. I have one tonight. I'm shocked at how high Breece Hall is going. So now you have a quarterback where you have to respect the pass because you've got Garrett Wilson. You also have Mike Williams coming off injury, who from San Diego or LA, who's good. Then you have the backfield of Breece Hall. Their defense is pretty good too. If I'm ever going to pick the Jets to win the Super Bowl and be wrong, because I will be wrong, the time is now. I'm picking the Jets to win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
I don't know why.
Wow.
And it's not a homer pick because if you go back in previous years, I never would even put them in the chat. But if they're going to ever enter the chat and have a chance to be the answer, now is the time.
Would you like to know? We can just do top 5, but would you like to know some of the odds for the chances to win the Super Bowl this year? Kansas City.
Okay.
Which
is fair. That's fair.
San Francisco is below them. Baltimore Ravens in 3rd. Detroit Lions in 4th. Philadelphia Eagles in 5th. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 5. Cincinnati Bengals. I'll keep going. Houston Texans, Buffalo Bills, Green Bay Packers, Dallas Cowboys.
Where are the Jets?
Dallas Cowboys are right above the Jets at number 1, 2,
10, so the Jets are 11?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay.
20-1.
So I'm taking the Jets, and I'm taking them as a Giant fan's nightmare Super Bowl. I'm taking the Jets beating the Eagles. So that if you're
saying Jet Eagles
Super Bowl. Because I think Sirianni there has to obviously coach for his coaching job. And I do also think that for whatever reason, Saquon is going to have a good year. I would like to be wrong on that because I'm not a Saquon fan. But I'm going to go on the assumption that Saquon has a good year. And other than if you go in like the NFC, other than San Francisco, I guess Detroit's a legitimate threat, but they're still Detroit. I'm taking the Jets over the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Now someone will send me this in January when both teams don't make the playoffs and say how wrong I was, and that's fair. This is a shot in the dark like a Mega Millions tickets, but I'm taking the New York Jets to win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
And a Giant fan nightmares. My buddy Greg won't watch as a Giant fan. That would be like for you couldn't have like a Devils Flyers Stanley Cup, but if you had like a Devils Islanders playoff series, you just don't watch. You just hope the team gets injured and whoever emerges.
I'm looking at the AFC right now. Jets. I don't think the Bills got it anymore. I don't think the Ravens got it anymore. I don't think the Ravens are disciplined. I think they have a lot of talent, but they just don't seem like they're like all going on the same track.
They have. I learned this the other night at a fantasy draft, and I don't follow the NFL like I do NHL. Derrick Henry is now on the Ravens from Tennessee, the running back.
Yeah,
I had no idea. Absolutely no idea. But he's injury prone.
And then you got Kansas City.
Yeah,
I don't think the Raiders are rebuilding. There's a whole lot of stuff going on in that locker room. The AFC South is awful.
Right? Who in the
Jaguars, Titans, Texans, Colts?
Other than Kansas City, and Kansas City deserves to be number 1 in the AFC, of course.
Yeah,
but they're not like deserve it to be like they're running away with it, like it's theirs.
Yeah.
Other than them, who is better than the Jets in the AFC?
I don't know.
No one in the
Bills have changed since
the Bills
last
are
year.
not better right now on paper.
Yeah.
And in the AFC South, you're going to tell me now I'm going to buy the Houston Texans because of C.J. Stroud and Stephon Diggs? No, I'm not buying that. Yeah. In the North, who's the best? Cincinnati maybe has a regroups. They lost Joe Mixon.
Ravens, Bengals, Steelers.
But I can't now. I would to tell me the Ravens are the second best in the NFC. I can get behind.
Yeah.
But what I can't do is I can't get behind them in the playoffs because they always blow it.
Yeah.
Every year.
I don't think they're on the same page. I think they're just a bunch of good athletes that are just going there, like doing their own thing. They're not like disciplined.
And the Jets' schedule also, once they get through San Francisco this week, where they have to start on Monday night, it's not that bad of a schedule. Like I looked when we were at the Jet game last week because the Jet guy's trying to sell me tickets, and he had a piece of paper with like the 8 home games they have, the opponents. They're not the most difficult schedule. So we shall see. So that is the Super Bowl picks. Before we go, week 1 picks. You ready?
Yeah.
Let me just remind everyone, because it's been a while, how this works. We take 5 games. We take them with the spread. We do not cheat. We do not tell you like we're going to the team that's a 10-point favorite is going to win this week. No, we don't do that. That's not fair. We take the spreads. We have done this for 4 seasons. The first 3 seasons of MYPB, we had massively winning seasons. And then last year, we completely went the wrong way. So we're going to regroup this year. We're 3-1. So if you've listened to our advice every week since we started, you're on a boat somewhere in Aruba right now, right? Living the life. And I'm happy to do that. We're going to try and get rid of last year. All right. I'm going to start here with this week. Pittsburgh plus 3.5 at Atlanta. The Cardinal thing from last year, one of the lessons that came out of the year, Atlanta should never be giving points. Atlanta's not that good. They don't give the ball to Bijan Robinson, was the issue last year. They do have a new coach. Maybe he'll change the offensive game plan. But give me Pittsburgh on the road with a more experienced coach, plus 3.5. I also get the coverage of the field goal. Give me Pittsburgh plus 3.5 in Atlanta. I like Washington also, Dan Quinn's coaching debut at Tampa. Tampa's not that good, and Washington may not be that good either, but plus 3 on a coach's debut on week 1 where there's always a lot of unknowns, getting coverage by a field goal. Give me Washington plus 3 at Tampa. This other one I really like, the Broncos plus 6 at the Seahawks. You have Sean Payton plus 6 getting points a lot against a first-year head coach in Seattle and almost getting a touchdown. Give me the Broncos plus 6 at Seattle. My last 2 games, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the 2 local teams because those were what jumped out at me. I like the Vikings minus 1.5 at the Giants. I understand the Vikings lost J.J. McCarthy for the season already, which is unfortunate. Again, I just don't see the Giants being good, and I would normally take home teams in week 1, but minus 1.5 when you're a better team and the other team's quarterback is Daniel Jones is not a lot to cover. So I'm taking the Vikings minus 1.5. Last, I'm doing the Jets. I'm taking the Jets plus 4.5 at San Francisco. I just am. I call me crazy. Do I think the Jets will definitely win that game? No, but 4.5 is a lot. I'm getting 1.5 above a field goal if it comes down to the end. I'm taking the Jets plus 4.5. So to recap, I'm taking the Steelers on the road plus 3.5 in Atlanta, Washington plus 3 at Tampa, Broncos plus 6 at Seattle, the Vikings minus 1.5 at the Giants, and the Jets plus 4.5 Monday night to close out week 1 at San Francisco.
Wow, I'm actually impressed. I didn't think you'd take the Jets over the 49ers week 1.
I'm taking them with the points. I don't think they're going to win, but I think 4.5. Like if you told me they was plus 1.5 or plus 2, I probably wouldn't. Yeah, that's
a big tell of what the expectations are for the Jets. Like San Francisco's top tier team, dude.
They are. Yeah. It's not like if you were the Jets and you get your schedule in April, and you know you have to play at San Francisco, right? Because the NFL is predetermined. You know your opponents. You just don't know where they are spaced during the season. You could not have been thrilled about week 1 in San Francisco to start it.
This is what I talked about. Who was it? The Lions? I think it was the Lions last year. Like if I'm playing San Francisco, I want them week 1. I want them not battle tested. I'd rather have them week 1 than week 5.
Yeah. You know what? That's fair.
So this might be a nice. We said this last year about who? We said this about the Jets versus the Bills. And they did it, and they won against the Bills without Aaron Rodgers. He played 3 minutes, he played 3 seconds, and then went down, and Zach Wilson beat the Bills. So I think if you can sneak in this W right here on Monday night early, I think that's a good place to be rather than playing them like week 5.
We shall see.
Everyone's, getting the cobwebs off. Knock the cobwebs off.
We get them off. So that is it for us today. We thank you. We thank David Pagnotta of NHL Network, Sirius XM NHL Radio for coming on. A lot of good insight. We are back now on our weekly regimen here. We will be here next year. Do you have a look in your eye like you're going to do something?
There's a comment I want to put up really
Okay,
bad.
Go ahead.
Nikolai said it. The Chiefs are going to win in 5. Chiefs in 5.
Chiefs in 5. Chiefs in 5. Okay. He's a hockey guy, that Nikolai. We thank you for listening. As always, we are back to our weekly regimen. As I said, we will be on next Wednesday. So actually, Nikolai is a fan of the Wednesday taping. So he will be happy to know that next week we will be on the 11th, September 11th, on Wednesday. We inch closer to the preseason hockey. The first Ranger game, as I mentioned, is 2.5 weeks away for preseason. So it's always good. Preseason doesn't count, but it's good to see some live hockey. And that is it for us. We thank the Bamboozle Project as always, as well as DraftKings, and we will talk to you next Wednesday.